A very warm welcome. You're watching News 18 Global. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. We dive into this segment with our top focus on the war in Ukraine. First, there was a double tap attack in Pakrovsk, which is a town near the Donetsk region in Ukraine. And now today, we're learning of reports of a fresh explosion taking place at an industrial plant near Moscow, where at least 25 people have been reportedly killed and 2 were injured, and several houses nearby were shattered by the blast wave. Such was the strength of this blast. The blast took place at the mechanical plant in the town of Sergiev Posad. Meanwhile, Russia said that it shot down 2 drones near Moscow. Russia has also blamed Ukraine for another alleged attempt to hit its capital. Russia's defense minister, in the meantime, Sergei Shoigu, in a recent remark has said that Russia will now be building up forces at its western borders following Finland's accession to the US-led NATO alliance. Shoigu further said that the collective West is waging a proxy war against Russia. Several second-hand Leopard 1 tanks that once belonged to Belgium have also been bought by another European country for Ukraine. Here's the report.
Ёб твою мать! Это здание суда, что ли, нахуй? Аж дом шатало, блядь. Ёб твою мать! Это здание суда, что ли, нахуй? Аж дом шатало, блядь. Ёб твою мать! Это здание суда, что ли, нахуй? Аж дом шатало, блядь. Ёб твою мать! Это здание суда, что ли, нахуй? Аж дом шатало, блядь.
Threats to the military security of the Russian Federation have multiplied in strategic western and northwestern directions, a serious destabilizing factor in Finland joining NATO, and in the future Sweden too. After Helsinki joined the alliance, Russia's land borders with the bloc's countries almost doubled. On Finnish territory, it is likely that additional NATO military contingents and strike weapons will be deployed, capable of hitting critical targets in northwest of Russia at a considerable depth. There are existing risks associated with the militarization of Poland, which has become the main instrument of United States' anti-Russia policy. Warsaw announced its intention to build, according to the Poles, the most powerful army in the contingent. In this regard, large-scale purchases of weapons have begun from the United States of America, Great Britain and Republic of Korea, including tanks, artillery systems, air defense and missile defense systems, and combat aircraft. Considering the armed forces of Eastern European countries, about 360,000 military personnel, 8,000 armored vehicles, 6,000 artillery systems and mortars, 650 aircraft and helicopters have been deployed in the immediate vicinity of the borders of the Union states of Russia and Belarus. The number of formations of non-regional states of the North Atlantic Bloc has increased 2.5 times since February last year and exceeded 30,000 people. These threats to Russia's military security require a timely, adequate response.
And for more details, let's quickly go across to Ben Aries, who's the editor-in-chief of BNE. He'll break down all the developments for us. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining in. You know, when we talk about the Ukrainian counteroffensive, let's just analyze the last 2 days. First, a double-tap missile attack in Pakrovsk, and now an explosion in the Russian factory. What do these developments speak of the much-touted Ukrainian counteroffensive? Can Ukraine now just depend on retaliatory attacks alone?
Well, indeed, everybody was expecting the Ukrainian counteroffensive for a long time. I mean, it was telegraphed for months and months. And given the experience last September when they launched a counteroffensive in the Kharkiv region with spectacular success, I mean, they broke through the Russian lines, they recaptured hundreds of square kilometers of territory very fast. And the problem this time around is the Russians have been given 8 months to prepare because it's taken that long for the West to supply the weapons needed for the counter-offensive. And of course, they've invested heavily in the defenses, and they're very well prepared. So it's going very slowly. I mean, basically, the Ukrainian troops are facing kilometers deep of mines, landmines, anti-personnel mines, and it's going very slowly. They haven't made the spectacular breakthroughs. And unfortunately, what this means is we're left into another stage of the grinding attrition, but it's much more bloody in so much as the Ukrainians are on the offensive now, and the Russians have brought up their reinforcements, given the conscripts. And in the meantime, we're seeing these missile attacks. So again, today there was a very nasty missile attack, killed dozens of people who've been taken to hospital, many dead. As for the explosion in Moscow, that actually seems to have happened just outside Moscow, Sergiev Posad, and it's a fireworks factory. The MCHS, the emergency ministry, is saying that actually it wasn't a Ukrainian attack; it was human error. Having said that, the mayor of Moscow, Sobyanin, said that the Moscow defenses shot down 2 drones. So there remains a question mark, and we've seen in the last 500 days several arson attacks, explosions, questionable fires in oil refineries. And so there does seem to be some sort of partisan movement going on, carrying out terrorist attacks, arson attacks, sabotage against structures inside Russia. And this, again, was near the capital. It was a very significant explosion, as you can see from your footage. So we shall have to wait and see what the investigation comes up with.
Ben, the Russian defense minister has said that Russia will now be building up forces in its western region to counter NATO's threat. What do you make of Russia's war strategy now? Where is this headed?
Well, it's a standoff, and at the same time, it's an escalation. I mean, you mentioned before that 50 new Leopard tanks are on their way from Belgium to the battlefield in Ukraine. The Leopard tanks are Germany's most modern and extremely effective tanks, better than anything that the Russians have. And at the same time, Biden just announced that he gave the okay for F-16, Ukrainian F-16 pilots to be trained. And if those planes arrive in the theater, then that's a very significant upscale of powerful weapons. And those planes can also carry nuclear bombs. And so the Russians will take that very seriously. And at the same time, we've seen Russia shell Ukrainian ports at the mouth of the Danube in order to cut off the grain exports to the rest of the world. And slowly, this fight is spilling over the Ukrainian borders into the surrounding countries. NATO has also announced that they're moving in troops, or at least Shoigu claims that they're moving in new strategic troops to Finland, which would be a complete reversal of Finland's long-standing policy of neutrality. So we're seeing this creeping escalation getting closer and closer to that red line, wherever exactly it lays, where the Russians say that they're under direct attack by NATO and then retaliate also outside of Ukraine into army bases in somewhere like Poland. And then all bets are off. I mean, who knows where it will go from there.
Right. Ben, when we look at the NATO summit that took place in Lithuania, NATO came away without offering any timetable to induct Ukraine. Is this not an important time for NATO to now consider going slow on its recruitment campaigns? That was perhaps also a crucial point of contention for Vladimir Putin. He's been using this to make an argument for Russia waging this war. How can NATO, in fact, slow down?
It can't. Its hands are tied in so much as officially it's not in this war. Officially, it's just helping its friend, Ukraine, defend itself against Russian aggression. And the Russian side has accepted that NATO can send arms to Ukraine. There's not much it can do about it, but it hasn't said that this is a direct attack by NATO on Russia via a proxy in Ukraine or as Ukraine. However, I mean, we're very close to that point where they could say that, and then it becomes a direct conflict. Although Stoltenberg, the General Secretary of NATO, has said from the very beginning, his first priority is to avoid Third World War, a direct clash between NATO and Russia. And his second priority is to help Ukraine defend itself. And moreover, NATO explicitly, and the US in particular, has not said that their war goal is for Ukraine to win. It's just to defend itself. So we're in a stalemate. I mean, I think because there's no clear goal of what they're trying to achieve in Ukraine, that we just end up with this gradual escalation, that Russia comes with ever more powerful weapons, ever more troops, and at the same time, NATO supplies Ukraine with ever more powerful arms and ever more money in order to defend itself. And it just grinds on inconclusively. I don't see where there's going to be an end. I mean, there's been a round recently in Jeddah of an attempt to work out some sort of deal that would begin to be a peace plan. But that effort, the diplomatic effort, is going extremely slowly without any concrete results.
All right. Thank you, Ben, for sharing in your precious inputs. It was a pleasure to have you on my show.